Hi guys, let's try and demystify inverters for you guys. There's three major types in solar. When we're looking at putting solar on a building, we're trying to analyze what's going off with which one would work best. So let's try and quickly zoom into what would work best in three different kind of scenarios and three different types of inverter. The first one we're going to touch is the hybrid inverter. This is an inverter that's quite widespread across domestic and small commercial. Those types of installations is where the inverter can charge directly to the DC, to a battery, and then on the DC side go back to grid as well. So the inverter itself is bolted to a wall, is installed somewhere within the house or the factory. It's taking the DC off the roof, and then it's got a DC battery underneath it. Now, there's a few different ways we can get DC in and out of a battery, and there's a few different ways we can charge up a battery. There's DC to DC, there's AC to DC, the DC back to AC, back to DC again, all these crazy different things. But let's just stick with the three different types of inverter. So the hybrid inverter is going to be feeding your battery in its location. The one snag with using a hybrid inverter is the regulations on where we're allowed to put batteries, where we're allowed to put this piece of kit, where the environment is going to enable this piece of kit to work well and work efficiently. So that is the first type of inverter that we're going to have a quick look at. The second type of inverter is a central inverter. These are the bog standard, the kind of middle of the road type inverters at the moment, where you've got a whole group of strings coming off a roof. You've got a whole bunch of panels on one commercial big roof. These tend to be wired in, bring your DCs all the way into those inverters, and these tend to be stacked and racked. You can get 5, 10, 50, loads of them all on a wall, all getting the DC direct from the roof and then taking the AC to where your incoming supply is. The central inverter is a great piece of kit. There's two different types that I've bumped into recently. One has got a DC isolator built into it. One has not got a DC isolator built into it. Sometimes these can pull you unstuck depending on your specifying, depending on where you're up to with the job, and depending on how you want to be able to break that DC current going up to your roof. One of the things that can prove interesting and a bit difficult with having a central inverter is sometimes the weight of the thing, and sometimes can we get it in the space that we need? Are we going to have to break it down and have two separate inverters rather than one main central inverter? So that's two types there. We've got the hybrid inverter, we've got the central inverter, and the third type, which is quite interesting, is the micro inverter. Now this is where we put the inverter on the back of the panels. The inverters can change the current directly in this location. Now some of them transmit the DC straight through it and going into a totally different type of system. And some of these actually have AC to them, which means that the actual whole job of that inverter is taking place underneath the panel itself. There's kind of two leading models over here, leading makes over here in the UK at the moment, and they are doing doing very interesting, and who they partner up with and how they deliver their service and how they're advancing their marketing and stuff like that. But it's the beauty of the micro inverter is its monitoring. This gives you panel by panel monitoring on both of the leading types, the leading brands in the UK at the moment. It's great to be able to sit with the client at the end of the job and look at the panel by panel monitoring. Whereas in your central inverter, we're looking at one heap of data. Sometimes you do get or you don't get your mains incoming data with that as well. And the hybrid tends to be one portal, one data catcher that you can then see what that hybrid inverter is doing, and it also gives you things like the battery temperature and bits of information like that. I hope that's brought some knowledge and wisdom. Those are the three basic types of inverter that are over here in the UK at the minute. I hope that's added some value. That's Justin from Independent Solar Consultants, hopefully bringing some knowledge and wisdom.